welcome again to my podcast and my YouTube channel. Today we have two sisters here, which is I think the first time. Actually, not the first time because the first time was me and my sister. That was like a year and a half ago. So we have an episode of me and her talking about our dad's suicide. But today I have two sisters, Kristyna and Veronika. They're talking from the Czech Republic, East Europe, for those of you who don't know where that is. And when I talked to Kristyna before, I told her I've been fortunate enough to have been there, to Prague, of course, because that's where everybody goes. Beautiful place. I love it. And I'm really glad she contacted me. First, it was Kristyna. She was talking about the experience of losing her mother. They lost their mom about a year ago. She was 57 years old. And she was telling me that she wanted to share her story because she thinks it can be helpful. And she actually, when I was reading your email, Kristyna, I was thinking how similar it is to my experience, how you were digging into books, trying to understand, talking to your therapy. You went to therapy, talking, for you, it was important to understand what was happening. And that's precisely what I did. I was reading books like crazy. My book was one of the books that she read. And I was like, yeah, I get it. I was like that. There are two sides to that. One is very good. It does help you understand. The other one is you keep reliving the experience, so it can be quite painful. So that's one of the things I want to talk about, but mainly one of the reasons why I loved when at the end of I always have a conversation with my guests before to see if it's a good fit, if it can be re-traumatizing, because I don't want to re-traumatize anyone. And sometimes we come together to that decision that no, it's not time yet. You need more time to be on the podcast. In this case, it wasn't. And then at the end, Kristyna said, can I bring my sister Veronika in? Because I think it would be nice for us to talk about this together, because that's, you've been sharing the pain and the experience together. And I was like, that is excellent, because I want to help families, those who are listening now, and they may have conflict within the family. One sees it differently, the other one can't accept the suicide, or even if you accept it and you go through it together, the experience is different. So that's what we're going to kind of focus on, how both of you came to terms with the loss, how you're coping, what helps one, does it help the other. So I think I just want to help all of you who are listening, who are going through this pain, and you have your family, and maybe give you some ideas on how to talk about it openly and bring up the conversation, and how to accept these differences. So thank you. This very long introduction. Usually my introductions are very short.
Fine. Don't worry
But
about it.
yeah, thank you, Kristyna and Veronika, for being here and for sharing your story.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us. And you basically told in a nutshell what my experience was. But I think at the beginning, to a little bit understand where we were coming from and where my mom was coming from, I would like to say a little bit about her, because she was living with depression. I would say at least the whole life we known her.
Yeah.
So basically her whole adult life, which had two outcomes. I think one, it was normalized for us to talk about. She talked about her depression and antidepressants and everything quite freely. It was never covered in any kind of stigma, which was maybe the good side. But the downside of this was that at least me, I kind of accepted it as it was something like asthma, something she was living with, something benign, so to say. So it was mom. She had depression, her ups and downs, the seasonal depressions. It was always worse during the spring, and it got better by the summer. The autumn was kind of all right, and by the end of Christmas, it went all downhill again. And this was the cycle for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was
it was normalized for us because especially, our mom wasn't just sick mentally, but also physically. She always began being sick with all the colds, getting antibiotics. And that was like for 3 months straight, she couldn't work. And so it was all interconnected. Yes. So during the spring of 2022, she was going through major, I think, I don't know, like depression, not just depression, but like anxious depression. Yeah. It's hard to say, in some medical terms. We knew she was worse, but whenever anyone asked me, I was always like, yeah, it's springtime. Of course, it's worse.
Yeah.
So I think in the hindsight, because there's always the hindsight, I saw all the signs that she, for example, once I remember this conversation pained me deeply for months and months after her death. We went back from a funeral of a relative, and she was saying she was very down, and I was trying to cheer her up, and I said, so it's almost springtime, you love your garden, don't you want to garden a little bit? And she said something around the lines, no, nothing makes me happy anymore. Nothing makes me happy anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, but that's not true. You'll have your garden. And I was just cheering her up. And after she died, I was like, oh, she was trying to tell me that nothing makes her happy anymore. And I just didn't listen. And this, in the beginning, this like sent me into the spiral of regret and guilt and horrible place. Now I know I couldn't have known that, but I wanted to point out that, for example, the lifelong depression is still might become terminal, like it did with our mom. And I just didn't see it coming because it was mom and her depression, but never mom and suicide.
No, probably we don't connect these things, right? I love that you bring it up. Two things that you brought up that I think it's interesting. One is that you're talking about that her, ups and downs, and how in the spring it was worse, because this is actually a myth about suicide. People think that it gets worse and the rates go up during the winter, and it's not. It's during the spring worldwide. Isn't that strange? Yeah, but it is. I mean, the numbers are higher during the spring, really. But also what you said about the normalizing. So if it's normal, you just don't pay attention. You don't pay attention, and you don't see, like you said, I love the word that it can become terminal, right?
And it did.
Yeah, yeah. Did you? Well, first of all, I never said who is Veronika and Krystina for those who are watching the YouTube channel. So can Krystina say I'm Krystina?
Yeah, hi. Veronika.
Yeah. So yeah, so how about for you, Veronika? Was it something to also that you just, yeah, it's mom, it's like back pain, right? It's
Oh
coming
yeah,
back.
it was very similar. I was realizing that something is not okay because she was in a worse state than before. For example, she had this tremble of
Oh.
her legs, and I saw her like a month or a few weeks before she died. She was very deep into her faith, like her Christianity. So I joined her to go to like Easter Mass on Sunday. And yeah, I just remember that I saw that she wasn't like usually depressed as she usually was. She had this kind of emptiness in her eyes, but I just couldn't, like realize that it was it, right? Nobody could know that it was like suicide thoughts. But I really genuinely thought that she just needs some help. So that's why we took her to her psychiatrist, and we kind of hope that we are going to get her to get hospitalized, and she's going to be fine in a few months or a few weeks. Plus, what what kind of killed me the most, if I can say it like that, was that I really didn't expect it to do that because she did it a month before my wedding. So
Oh yeah, I remember.
you
Yeah,
know, I wasn't really thinking about her, to be honest. I was thinking about myself, about my wedding. I don't know if you ever planned a wedding, but it's a terrible thing to do. It's it's very
I
stressful.
know. I don't. Yeah, I don't suggest it to anyone. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, it's like, I hope that I will never get divorced and married again, because no, no,
No.
never.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I just kind of thought that, that we're gonna get her to hospital, she's gonna get better, then we're gonna visit her, and then she's gonna be at my wedding, she's gonna see how happy everybody is, and she's gonna get happier as well. Plus, it was supposed to be at the beginning of summer, so we kind of
yeah,
thought her seasonal depression will go like away a bit.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she actually took her life. She was supposed to be hospitalized in a mental institution to be treated for depression, because the depression got worse. Voluntarily, of course, she wanted that. It was
Mhm.
discussed with her psychiatrist, and we came to the agreement to an agreement that the inpatient care
Yeah,
in her
inpatient care, yeah.
wasn't working anymore, because she was in the care of the same psychiatrist for 10 years. So we were she was also willing to try something new, like to get
Oh,
better.
okay.
But this is horrible. But she actually was promised a place, but there wasn't a place for her
Mm.
uh, in April, I think. Like for one Monday, they called her and they said, "Okay, you have to wait for another week. We don't have a place for you." No, they said
Oh,
another month, but try calling in a week, okay, so
mm.
maybe there will be a place available. And she called me, like, broke down, like, they don't have a place, and I was just like, yeah, it's another month, it's only a month, you can make it, you will be ready and everything. And I didn't take it seriously, again, her anxiousness. But she actually died 2 days before the call for another place.
For the another place, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And her suitcase for the institution was packed.
Oh,
She had a
so
suitcase,
yeah.
it was all prepared, all basically prepared. And on Monday, she and her sister were supposed to call if there is a place for her. And what is also quite devastating, and I think we might get into it a little bit later, is that she actually tried to kill herself.
Attempted, yeah.
Attempted, yeah, about 2 or 3 weeks before her death. But only her boyfriend knew about it. The boyfriend went to visit the psychiatrist with her and didn't say a word to nobody
So you
about this.
didn't know.
No, none of us knew. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't tell anybody, not even the psychiatrist. And what ate away at me for a long time was that if the psychiatrist or anyone knew about this, her place at the institution would have been secured, and she
Yeah,
could
yeah,
get
because it's
help
risk for
needed.
suicide.
Yes,
Yeah.
because she was low risk, and because of the fact that she was low risk, she didn't get the place.
Oh, oh. All the what ifs, right?
Yes,
That's
but
what we do over and over
yes,
again. All the what ifs. What if I had done this? What if they had done that? What if I
yes,
knew, right? And I want to acknowledge Veronica that I was, yeah, when your sister Christina told me about your wedding, that she died like a month before your wedding. I was devastated for you, but not just that. That you were the one who found her, right?
yes. I found her the Monday we were supposed to call again to the hospital.
Mm,
So um, yeah, Monday morning. I hate them even more than before, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's very traumatizing experience for me, but surprisingly, I've been feeling it more lately than afterwards. Like, the first month after her death, I just couldn't feel my emotions properly.
Mm,
And I still struggle with that until now.
yeah.
But yeah, me and my husband found her. It was then boyfriend, but yeah, we basically
Ah,
uh, couldn't open the house, and then I got the keys because she gave them to me a few days before, and yeah, I found her. And I know that we are not supposed to talk about like how they do that, but
Yeah.
I just want to say that it looked like a murder. It's
Yeah,
like
it was
you
bad.
all
Yeah.
you all know like all those thriller movies when somebody finds a dead body. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, murder happened. And
Yeah.
then like, an hour later we found out it was suicide. But
Yeah. I'm so sorry that you went through that. I can't even imagine finding I was fortunate enough to not even be in the country when my dad died. So by the time I got back, he had already been buried. So I couldn't
yeah,
even go to the funeral. But finding that is one of them. I can't even think of more, experiences that are more traumatic than that. Finding a loved one dead, not only that, but by suicide. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and to say how sorry I am, Veronica. Nobody should go through that.
yes, this is one of the key points where I think our journeys are different, because she actually went through the trauma of finding her. I was the first one who she called, and I think I will never forget the animal-like scream I heard on the at the end of the line. And I
Yeah.
went right there, but I wasn't allowed in the house because the police was already there. But the thing my sister mentioned, for example, for me, the
Mm.
when I think about the beginning, the time right after my mom died, it is a black hole. I basically cannot remember the first 2 weeks. I somehow managed to organize a funeral and everything around it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't remember. I don't remember it. I was constantly on the phone, and my husband and all the family came together to our house and helped taking care of my very young children at the time, because my younger one was like 17, 18 months old, so she was really young, and I was still nursing, which was very demanding because I couldn't even had anything for the emotional pain.
Hmm.
But yeah, couldn't even get her Xanax, it was
Yeah.
a horrible time. And right after that, I called a therapist and went to therapy and dive into the books. And the thing that drove me was that I absolutely cannot collapse. I need
Hmm.
to pull myself together. And my wonderful husband actually was there for me every step of the way, and told me for almost a year just to concentrate to my at myself, concentrate on myself,
On yourself. On
on
yourself. Yeah.
myself, yeah,
Yeah.
to really, really get through the trauma. And we were discussing this with Veronika a lot of times. That, for example, I was for a first few months, uh, almost every week, my children were taken care of by my in-laws, uh,
Hmm.
and I had a day for myself, and I processed my pain, sit with the pain, touch the pain, sort of say
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
getting to know the pain, how it feels, what it does to me, to my
Hmm.
body. And I was writing letters to my mom and everything,
Wow.
working through the pain. And my sister went a kind of different route because of what she mentioned. Oh yeah, I already know myself quite a bit. I'm 28 years old, and since my birth, I kind of get to acknowledge how
Mm.
my emotions are processed. And for me, the trauma, it never really hits like soon. It always hits like later, when you least expect it. Usually when you're experiencing like huge amount of stress. And I remember everybody telling me like, just take care of yourself. Just, you can break, you can fall apart, don't worry about it. But I just felt this pressure that I couldn't, I
Mm.
had work, I had to plan my wedding. In the end, it was in September. And then I got to this 6 months hiatus from work and from everything, and that was supposed to be like my time to heal and to reconnect with my emotions and to feel properly what I couldn't feel for the like
Hmm.
past 6 months. But I don't feel it work actually. like I'm so glad that my sister got through with it and really got to reconnect and got through therapy. And I went to therapy as well, but I don't know, I just didn't feel that I could like relieve my emotions in a healthy way.
Uh-huh.
And so I kind of repressed it, suppressed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Try to hold it together all the time. And yeah, it's still not processed, it's still not good.
Yeah,
And in the
yeah.
end, like the heaviest I feel is now. So I guess now I need the most therapy.
Really?
Yeah, that's
And
weird. That's the weird thing.
no, it's not weird. That's grief. And grief is different for everyone. And when you say I suppressed my emotions, sometimes it's just because it was too much for you. Some people talk about numbness. No, I didn't feel a thing. For 6 months, I was like, it was almost like I was out of my body and I couldn't feel anything. We feel what we feel. There is no recipe for grief. And that's, in a way, the beauty of grief is the fact that each one of us does it differently. And when you say, Veronica, that I felt that I couldn't process it or express my emotions in a healthy way, what do you mean by that? I was curious.
Of course,
Because
I
you wouldn't know how, or you maybe thought that you would lose control, or what does that mean?
That's exactly the thing, the losing control thing. Like,
Mm,
I have no problems with crying. Like, I'm a crier. I cry every day. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, I remember talking to my therapist and being like, I just can't let it out. I can't let it out. I wanted
mm,
all let it out. And she was like, maybe you can let it out in a smaller portions, like dripping coffee. Just try it by the drips. And
yeah.
I tried. I really tried, and I think it helped. But uh, I can't even like explain how was it like, making myself feeling better, or like just thinking about it, like just thinking about the pain, for example.
uh,
That was like the hardest for me, because soonest, or like the moment, thank you, I realized my own pain and went deep with it. I also realized how terrible our mom must have felt, and it
oh, so
absolutely
you
destroyed.
connected with her
Yeah.
pain.
So I was like, no, 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 I can't handle
I
it
can't
right.
go there.
So
Yeah.
I was rather, yeah. So I was rather cynical and angry, which I still am.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sad, but also very angry, and I see, or I feel that the anger is helping me not to be so emotional, but it's also preventing me to let it all out.
Mm-hmm.
So I still
Yeah.
can't let it all out.
What
But
does the anger tell you?
mm, that it's easier. It's easier with the anger.
It
Uh,
is, yeah.
it's what does it tell me, right? Sorry. It's much more easier to be angry with her, but I know it can't last forever, because otherwise I'll be bitter and I'll
Mm-hmm.
never deal with it, and then I'm gonna hurt somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I already see that it's damaging my relationship, like, for example, when I'm angry all the
Mm.
time, and, I tend to get angry about a lot of things, especially
Yeah.
about
Like
work, for
small
example.
things.
It's
Yeah.
stress. And of course, when you're angry all the time, it's affecting your relationships, especially with the ones that are closest. So I think my husband went through a lot as well.
Uh-huh.
Also because, everybody basically took care about me, everybody asked me how I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody was like, how are you, Veronica? But nobody asked him, I know that for him it was only mother-in-law, and he didn't know her that well, but he found her with me.
Oh, wow.
And
It's the
same
trauma.
day,
Yeah.
he found out that his grandmother is dying. So it was like emotional turmoil for him as well. So it's hard for us, to understand each other sometimes, because he's super supportive. He understands the pain, but also
Mm-hmm.
like he couldn't express the pain in any way, because he had to hold me together. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
what I think about a lot as well, that I need to let the anger go, because otherwise I can never move on. That's how.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. that is something we know with suicide. That's one of the emotions that, with other kinds of death, it doesn't come around, right? It's just not there. The anger, you're not supposed to be angry at someone who died, right? But how can you not when it's suicide? It's
Yeah, because
so,
the
yeah,
one who died is also coincidentally the one who took your
who
loved one.
killed. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
who killed.
yeah, yeah.
I also went through a quite short period of anger, but what I wanted to say, what Veronika didn't mention, is that what makes it a little bit more, as I see it, complicated for her, is that since she is dealing with the delayed response,
Mm-hmm.
people are expecting her to be better by now.
Oh yeah, that's
Mm.
So, for example,
Yes.
everyone was like supportive and gathered around us at the beginning and
Yeah,
expected us to take it slow. So
yeah,
sometimes I'm like, I feel guilty because everyone was like, yeah, take your time and it's so horrible for you. But this support gradually dries up
mm-hmm.
the upcoming weeks and months. And when my sister is like still
Yeah,
struggling with some stuff
yeah.
like selling the house after our mom, some people, family members are like, why isn't she still this?
She's
Like,
still
yeah,
feeling this,
still.
right? Yeah.
So
Should be
it's,
over it right now, right?
yes, people are expecting her to be over it,
Yeah.
and it's harder to explain that she isn't.
yeah. I always kind of laughed about that. I'm slower, like in all the ways.
Mm, mm,
But yeah, yeah. That's the thing. You said it exactly. It's maybe the anger as well, is trying to prevent me from like doing all the stuff as well. It's paralyzing as well.
mm-hmm.
It's not
Yeah.
only the anger. I wouldn't blame it on the anger. I blame it on the sadness, and the whole trauma that is so inexplicable, for me. Like I was kind of expecting some trauma, some PTSD. You read about these things, how it
Yeah.
happened. I think I know quite a lot about like mental health, but at the same
Yeah.
time, you can never recognize it with yourself. But recently, I was like, okay, so do I have PTSD? Can you have even PTSD? And then I was like, yeah, sure, you can have PTSD even from like, nothing, almost, or
Mm-hmm.
something that sounds like nothing to me. But yeah, and then I read all the symptoms of PTSD and I was like, hell, this is it. That's why I'm so angry all the time, or so irritated, or like basically like all the symptoms were there. And I know what's the right way to do is basically find a
Mm.
psychiatrist and deal with that, but it's so hard to like move on to the next step because it's
Because it's
also,
scary.
yeah, it's super scary. Exactly.
It's scary because, and we mental health professionals, we talk about anger as a secondary emotion because it's actually something masking the one that you're so afraid of getting in touch with. Which
Yes.
for you, of course, is the trauma of finding your mom, the sadness of losing her, the aloneness of being with this pain that nobody understands and they never will, even if they've had this experience. And like your sister was saying, people expect you to be over it. And of course, that ignites and kind of feeds the anger too. But I'm glad to hear things like you're saying, I don't want this to prolong anymore. So maybe you're getting to the point where you're going to say, I'm gonna have to dig into this and do some crying, more crying, but not crying of anger because you're angry, but crying because you lost your mother. And that's a horrible thing. And that's painful. And I'm sure that you have reasons to be angry. I mean, she did it 1 month before what was supposed to be your happiest moment, right? The happiest day of your life. Not only was she not there, but she also left you with that pain and to deal with all of that. So it's absolutely understandable. Don't feel bad that you're angry because I can hear from you that you are moving. You are moving. You know how we see that grief is healthy, is happening in a healthy way. Because I know right now it doesn't feel like it for you, that you feel like you're stuck in your anger.
Mhm.
But when you say that the different days you feel differently, you feel anger. Yeah, there are days when I cry, and there are days when I'm numb, or there are days when I'm not feeling that and I'm okay. That's healthy grief. The problem is when you're only going down.
Mhm.
If you feel that you're only getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and like you said, I'm really glad to hear that you're paying attention to the relationships and how it affects them, because that's another loss that you can have if you don't pay attention to that. But it sounds like you are, and it sounds like you're maybe moving towards another moment of your grief.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. That's something like my ex-therapist would probably say. um, yes, but it's also, it's so tiring. Like I'm tired because of it all the time, and uh, also to admit the heaviness of it all. Of course, I know about it, and
Mm.
sometimes, like when I'm in the right moment, I admit it to myself.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, it's just easier to run from it right
Of
now. And
course, yeah. Yeah, of
I
course it is.
like I'm not a runner in real life, but I'm a great
Emotionally.
runner.
I'm just seeing Christina going, uh-huh. For those who are not watching and just listening, her sister is just nodding her head like, yeah.
Yeah, I've known her entire life. She's my little sister. So
Yeah, but I don't know. It doesn't sound like you're a runner. It just sounds like you're still not ready, but you will get there. There will be a time you're already realizing what's doing to your life, and you're already saying, I don't want this anymore. So that's a first step.
Yes.
I wanted to also talk about one thing that I was missing when I was reading all the books.
Mm,
Um, the specific pain of losing a parent, because I think you were the one of the very few people who talked about losing a parent as an adult to suicide, because most of the even people in your podcast or most of the books were really focused on losing especially a spouse or a teenage
a
child, which is
child. Yeah.
beautiful in its own way. I cannot even imagine. But I was missing a literature or something to connect with the pain of losing a parent when you are adult, because I think it's different than losing a parent when you are a child. I'm not
Mhm.
saying worse or better, but for example, for me, the main emotion I was feeling right after my mom died was this spiral of guilt, because
Mm.
I was feeling responsible for her, which has something to do with a lot of things, because my mom went through a messy divorce and counted on me with everything from her.
Basically, Christina was being like in a parental role since she was like
Yeah.
17 or 18, so it was super
Yeah.
difficult for her because she had to take care of me. And then both of our parents who treated her like their own therapist. And
Mm.
I don't think it's very healthy for a young person like that. So we were talking about it today, and I told Christina, yeah, of course you felt guilty because you took care of her last almost 15 years,
Mm.
so that's difficult, to like get out of this position that you think you're in.
Yeah, because I was always taking responsibility for the decisions. It was also, for example, in her family, her parents and her sister, because she was a lot of things. She was loving and caring, and she was so giving. She gave away to all the charities you can imagine.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
But
she
she
was
was not,
also a bit irresponsible.
yeah, she was a big child. And the fact that she was so irresponsible led to um, led to situation where her parents and her sister, when they needed something to be done or discussed, they were coming to me, and I was making those
That's a
decisions
lot.
way ahead of time. Yeah.
Too early
So
in life, right? Become the
yes,
parent very early. Yeah.
yeah. For example, one thing that ate away at me for a long time was that when my sister was 15, I think 15, and I was
Yes.
19. I was fresh out of high school and starting university, starting living with my boyfriend, now husband. And my parents were going through a very messy divorce, and my mom lost it. I later was told that she contemplated suicide. Actually, at the time, it was 10 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. Now,
Mm-hmm.
13 years ago now, sorry. My sister is good with dates. Uh,
I can tell you the whole timeline.
yeah, and we were living with my mom, and she like abandoned the responsibilities of a parent of a teenage child,
Mm.
and me and my husband were the ones to like manage the shoppings and everything, and we were 19, so it was
Ah,
really hard, and my sister went off rails a bit.
Yeah, as you can imagine,
of
as a
course.
year old, you don't listen to your older sister, and when your parents are breaking up and nobody basically asks you about your opinion, it's like, I don't care. Let's fuck it,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
let's have party, I don't
Yeah.
care. So
Uh-huh.
this time in our lives is a bit blurry, but basically what my sister was trying to say, our mom, she fell apart. She basically
Mm.
allowed herself to do the thing that I'm not allowing myself to do right now, and that is to fall apart.
Yeah, and she
Well,
went debts and dating
Dating
people,
websites.
yeah.
websites, everything. And I was kind of holding this against her because I was expecting her to be the parent, and I
Mm.
was the parent, and this created a little bit of wall between us for quite some time. Because in the end, when my sister was failing at school and wasn't taken care of as I seen
Of
it, I
course.
asked my
Yeah.
father to take her in, and
Oh.
he took her, and I think my mom was deeply hurt by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you did what you thought was best for your
Yes,
sister.
I was struggling with this decision, but ultimately I don't think it was my place to make this decision.
No.
My
No.
parents, this is what my therapist told me, but for 10 years I was struggling whether I made the right decision, and it was
Yeah.
my therapist who had to tell me it wasn't your
It
place to
wasn't
make.
your decision to make. Yeah. Yeah.
So stop worrying about it. Your parents should have talk about it and decide about it, not you at
Yeah.
19 years old.
Yeah. And Veronica, I want to just go back to something you said because it touched me deeply. And maybe it's something that's getting in the way of you letting all these emotions come out. You mentioned your mom. Well, she did what I can't do right now. You are not your mom. You have
Thank
other tools. You are different from her. And if you let it out and you process these emotions, it doesn't mean that you're going to do it the same way she did. You are not her. So allow yourself to know that, okay?
thank you for telling me that you're not the first and probably not the last one. And I
Mm.
really need to hear that. That's true. But it's just so hard to detach yourself from your parents, right?
Yeah.
Because I was already traumatized by the divorce, and I admitted like 8 years after the divorce that I was
Mm-hmm.
actually traumatized by that. And so that's why I always knew I was kind of slow with these things.
Mm.
And also because everybody kept telling me all my life that I'm like my mom by my
Ah,
like face, and even though, like, for example, my sister, sometimes when she was alive, she had big troubles understanding why is mom like that. And I always thought of myself that I understand it better, because I don't, not saying that I have depression, but I was
mm-hmm.
always a bit more on the melancholic side, if you can
Mm-hmm.
call it like that.
Mm-hmm.
and more on the emotional side. And so I always felt like I have this connection with mom, that I know how she feels. So that's why I feel so guilty sometimes that I didn't recognize it, because, oh my God, I knew the pain, but actually, I never knew the pain only after she left us. We always like laugh about it, that like if our mom wanted to tell us how difficult she is, she could just tell us. She couldn't just, she didn't have to kill herself. Because
Yeah.
now we really know what the pain feels like, and we
Yeah.
will forever know. And
Yeah.
there's better ways to do that, but of course, I don't, like I said, I don't want to be angry with her. I don't want to blame her, because I got to understand that she was sick. But it's so hard not to take it personally, and especially what Kristyna talking about, especially when it comes from a parent. And
Yeah.
it's so hard to like admit that it wasn't your fault, and it wasn't because they didn't love you. It was
Yes,
because they didn't love themselves.
Very important, yeah. But
But
that's how the child feels. The child
yeah,
in you and the teenager in you who back then felt abandoned by your mom. Because even though it was your sister and your dad's decision that you would move out, for the child, it's she left, she abandoned me. She doesn't want to take care of me anymore. And now you are reconnecting with that. That's what we do. So she did it again. So of course you're angry.
yes, and also the effect, when it is your parent, you mentioned the abandonment, but also we talked about a lot what it does to your sense of motherhood, because because I was already a mother when my mom died,
Mhm.
and my sister might be a mother in the future, and we dealt with this particular subject quite differently, because for me it was incomprehensible, inconceivable. How can you do that? How can you leave them? I was maybe I was even more mad at her that she left my kids. How could she
Yeah.
leave my kids,
her
her
grandchildren.
grandchildren,
Yeah.
the perfect little creatures, the
Yeah.
best people in the universe, who I love with my whole heart? How could she do that? Because I felt the mother's love. I feel it every day.
Mm-hmm.
This is just beyond any comprehension for me, and I struggled with this. In the beginning, I, for example, struggled with my little one calling me mom, even
Yeah,
because
that was terrible.
yes,
I think
What do you
couldn't.
mean? You struggled
My
with?
my little one always called mom, of course, and I was like, oh, but I don't have my mom. I don't have anyone to call
Oh,
mom
call
anymore.
mom anymore. Yeah.
So it was painful to hear it.
Oh God, so many layers, aren't
yeah,
there?
So many layers in it, and my sister, she had her doubts about motherhood even before. And when my mom died, she was like,
yeah.
I cannot have
I'm
children.
done. Yeah, it's not happening.
Not happening. Yeah.
Of course, not right now, but yeah, I just remember that the day I found her and we all met in this house, with my sister's place, and I just heard her daughter calling her mom, and I was like,
Mm.
oh shit, like we will
Mm.
never have somebody to call our mom again. That's the thing I lost right now. I didn't realize that mom is dead. Of course, that takes like few months, weeks, maybe
Yeah.
for me, years, to fully admit, okay, she's not here. She's still in our dreams, for example. That makes it pretty confusing sometimes. But yeah, the thing that mom doesn't exist anymore for us, that I can't call my mom, that was like the knife in my heart.
The person you have known your entire life, the person who brought you into his life, is not there anymore. My husband actually did this sweet thing at the beginning. When he was talking about his mom, he called her grandma for me, because
Oh.
he didn't want to say, yeah, my mom called, and everything, because he knew how hard for me it was in the beginning, the word mom. She died actually a week before Mother's Day. So it was
Oh my goodness.
especially cruel
Yeah.
to see all the tributes and everything. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that was
No,
very hard.
it's like when the heaviness falls, it falls all over again, or
Yeah.
like all,
Yeah, all of this comes back, doesn't it? So how could she do it like a month before my wedding, a week before Mother's Day, and you just go on and on and on,
Mhm.
and it will be there for a long time. I have been, and my dad died what 17, 18 years ago. The only thing I can tell you, it does get lighter. It
Mhm.
does. The heaviness spreads, and because you build your life, and you you will get better. You really have you found a group? We talked about groups, and you said there are no groups there.
I actually joined right after I joined some Facebook support groups.
Oh, good.
I connected with a girl, with a few people, and one of them was a girl from
New York.
States, New York, I think, who lost her father
Mm-hmm.
like 2 weeks before my mom, and we texted each other throughout the year and went through the
Mm.
similar stages, and it helped me a lot
Yeah,
to
good.
share this.
Good. Yeah, I want to just go back quickly to what you said. Yeah, not many people talk about the loss of parents. And not only that, I totally agree with you. And that was actually one of the reasons why I wanted to write my book. Because as you said, it's all about losing kids. Because I think it's the idea that it's a natural thing, right? It's a natural thing. We lose parents. But they forget that not by suicide, that's not natural,
And not
right?
like 30 years before their time, because
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it's really tough. So tell me, to end this interview, I want you to tell me what helped both of you. I can tell that of course the relationship here. You guys have to watch this on YouTube, because just to see their faces, and when they look at each other, you just see the connection, you can feel it. I'm sure you helped each other. They're hugging each other right now. You helped each other, and it sounds like you were in touch with the differences too. I mean, Veronika was somewhere and Krystina was somewhere else, each one searching for a different path, one trying to avoid it and very angry, the other one trying to understand it at all costs.
Mm.
But you were together, and it doesn't sound like there was judgment there. So, was that something that helped? And also, relationships, what helped both of you?
You can
mm,
start.
I think I you mentioned it. I always need to understand things to get through them. So
Hmm.
when I read everything there was to read about it, and to when I got the tools and the words to describe what was happening to me and what was happening to my mom, I could
Hmm.
talk about it. I
Uh-huh.
could internalize that. I could get into terms with it. So
Hmm.
this helped me, and of course, my family, especially my sister and my husband, who were nothing but a supportive all the
Yeah.
time, and
Yeah.
there was never any grain of judgment towards me. And when I was judging myself relentlessly, my husband was repeating to me all the time that it was not my fault, that I couldn't have done anything. And I said, so this
Mm.
this
It
was
really helped. Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah.
love when you mentioned that you said you have, for the next year, just take care of yourself. And I was like, wow, this is one special man. Because ours, yeah, because usually we say, yeah, just take a few days, right? As if, as if.
Oh
No,
yeah.
he went like 200% for
Wow.
past year and a half. And when I was ready, I was also getting to our marriage in therapy and everything. I wanted to give back and acknowledge him, but he was a rock. I couldn't have managed without
Wow. Wow. I'm so glad. Well, thanks to him. Yeah.
him.
How about you, Veronika?
I have to agree with Christina, like her husband is phenomenal. But yeah, the same thing. I unfortunately haven't read that many books because I felt like it wouldn't help me,
Mhm.
because I didn't need to understand it. It was something like
Yeah.
so inexplicable, that I was like, okay, I hope it helps you, like Christina, to understand it. And, she talked about it a lot with me. So that helped me probably as well, like the shorter versions
Yeah.
she taught
Yeah.
me. But honestly, I'm still trying to figure out what's helping me or helped
Yeah.
me. And basically, yes, I have to say that I'm super lucky to have sister like that, to have a husband like I have, to have a
Hmm.
brother-in-law like that, and also friends.
Yeah.
I feel very emotional about them because I know that like I've got this group of really really old friends, and they knew my mom, and my mom knew them, and she really loved them, and they loved her. So of course, to see my friends coming to the funeral or being like, throwing me a surprise birthday party like a
Mm.
month after she died, because yeah, it was month
Yeah.
not my wedding
Oh,
only.
one more.
Well, so and the thing like Christina was saying, that people tend to forget. I think, of course, they forgot a bit that I'm still dealing with the trauma, but not all of them, and I still feel like this huge wave of support from them, and
Some
I'm
of them.
just from some of them, and I just so thankful for that. But I wish there was something like something magical,
Like
but
a magic pill, right? That I could just
yeah,
take.
magic pill. That's what I always wish for, but
If I ever find it, I'll let you know and I'll send it to you, okay?
it's
But I don't think it's coming. No,
always.
unfortunately. What helps is this is you two together talking about this loss, understanding that it's different for both of you. You deal one way, she deals another. You're not judged, and you acknowledge what's happening to you, even though it's not like you said, well, I don't want this to go on. It needs to change, but you needed the time to see that because you needed the anger. It's like denial. So many people deny, and one day they just break down
Mm.
because it was way too painful for them to acknowledge before. Your brain knows what you need. But I'm just glad to see you two together. Not only that, but very, very grateful that you came on my podcast. And I'm sure this is going to be so helpful to families. And that's what I try to do here with this work. So thank you for being here with us and sharing your pain so openly. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing
Thank you
this.
for having us. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for this opportunity.